Welcome back to Modern Jubilees. This video is about the Shabbat in the Book of Jubilees. So the Sabbath, or the Shabbat, is a prominent part of the Book of Jubilees. It is featured in chapter 2 and chapter 50, which is the very beginning and the very end of the book. Jubilees is, of course, an ancient text cherished by Ethiopian Jews and Christians and many more people today who have become exposed to this ancient text. It dates back at least 2,000 years as it was found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it is said to be from an angel of God who was with Moses on Mount Sinai. So what does this angel of God have to say about the Shabbat that we don't know already from the Old Testament, the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Pentateuch, the Torah? So after going through the book, of course, I did the modern English translation of Jubilees that I highly recommend checking out. But after going through the book and looking for what is the Shabbat in Jubilees, Shabbat can be broken down into 4 main elements in the Book of Jubilees. So let's get into all those 4 elements. Number 1, it is a sign. 4 times in the Book of Jubilees, the Shabbat is called a sign. And I'll say it's not even only a sign for human beings, it's a sign for all of creation. So apparently there were types of angels who also were given the Shabbat to keep in heaven, and these angels are then inviting the humans to keep Shabbat with them. And so what is the Shabbat a sign for the angels, for the humans, and for all of creation? The Shabbat is a sign that God created the world in 6 days. For 6 days he worked and created, and on the 7th day he rested, and so the Shabbat is given as a sign for the 7th day to also rest and observe the Sabbath. But what exactly should be done on the Shabbat we will get into later on. This is a sign because the Shabbat is featured as a critical part of creation. There were the 6 days of work and the 7th day of rest. This is all one unit. And so the Shabbat is this very important sign, and that is number 1. Number 2, it's a clock. In Jubilees, Shabbat is not just a commandment, but it's a reflection of the divine order. After 6 days of creative activity, God rests on the 7th, and he sets a precedent for humanity to do the same. And this emphasizes the inherent rhythm of creation and the importance of acknowledging the divine source of things. And how is it a clock? Because just as humans are told to keep Shabbat on the 7th day after the 6 days of the week, so too, when keeping time from the very beginning of creation, God gives Shabbat of years, the Sabbaths of years. What is this? It means that every 7th year is also a sort of sabbatical year. It's a Shemitah year. It's a year when the land is set to rest. And so Sabbaths of years are a critical part of how time became counted over history. There were weeks of years, and every 7 weeks of years would culminate in a 50th year after the 49 years of 7 weeks. The 50th year would be the Jubilee. So in order to count a Jubilee, you need to count the 7 Shabbats, the 7 weeks of years, and this becomes a critical part to the building blocks of time and calendar systems. And so that is number 2. Number 3, it is a feast. It is a day of nourishment, both physical and spiritual. It emphasizes a deep connection to the divine, reflection, gratitude, and communion with God. But let's just be straightforward here. 4 times it says, eat and drink. But there are 4 variations of this verse, and each time those 2 are followed by something else. So number 1 is eat, drink, and bless he who created all things. So eat, drink, and bless God. Number 2 here is eat, drink, and keep the Sabbath on the 7th day on earth. So eat, drink, and keep Shabbat. The 3rd time it says eat, drink, and rest. And the 4th time it says eat, drink, and be satisfied on this festival day. So it's eat, drink, and bless, eat, drink, keep Shabbat, eat, drink, rest, eat, drink, be satisfied. The beginning is always this physical eat and drink, and the last part is always something more spiritual, rest, be satisfied, bless God, keep this day on earth. This really gets into the essence of what Shabbat is about, not just the physical, but also the spiritual, but not just the spiritual, also the physical. God really asks that we rest, that we are satisfied, that we reflect, and that we eat and drink and have a feast and enjoy. Eating and drinking also, especially in the olden days, really involved other people, because to prepare meat and bread, it involved a community element. And so this eating and drinking has an inherent community element implied within it, and that is also a big part of Shabbat. And number 4 in Jubilees, it is an anchor. So just as it emphasizes the sanctity of gathering with loved ones to share meals and blessings, it's also an anchor that gives guardrails of how to best do this, how to best have this communal experience that the Shabbat is so known for being. The importance of gathering with people to share a meal is one thing. And so what else does it say in the Book of Jubilees? It also tells us what not to do. To strengthen family bonds and community bonds, foster a sense of shared purpose. All of this is reinforced by what is prohibited on the Shabbat day according to Jubilees. And let's go through what is prohibited on the Shabbat day according to Jubilees exactly. And those things are not preparing the food. Basically, the food and the drink should not be prepared on the Shabbat day. It should be prepared on the 6th day. We see this when the Israelites are in the desert and they're given enough manna on the 6th day for the 2 days. They're told on the 6th day, gather for the 2 days. That was the introduction to community Shabbat. Prepare on the 6th day so that on the 7th day you can rest and bless God and be nourished and eat and drink. So, eating and drinking, this means cooking and baking, things that really involve preparation. Shouldn't be done on the Shabbat day, it should be done on the 6th day. Drawing water, something that takes a lot of energy, shouldn't be done on the 7th day, it should be done on the 6th day. Then we have carrying in or out through the gates, that which hadn't been prepared on the 6th day in their homes. So that's referring to, let's say, going to the market to get some things, or going out far away. All of those kinds of things, Jubilee says straight out a number of times, not to carry in or out through the gates. Basically, be with your family and community to rest and reflect. 2 things that are debated if there's a mistake in them. So the first one talks about a husband and wife, but this is a very, very similar word to the word for fire, which is also mentioned later on and which is featured prominently in the Bible as one of the most important things to not do on Shabbat, which is lighting a fire, starting a fire. So that's a whole thing. We won't go into all the details. The next thing is, says he will do something forbidden. This also is very unclear because words are not really forbidden, so we're not sure what this is about. But those are the only 2 that are a little bit weird. Other than that, it says, sets out on a journey about commerce, so not going out to do business deals on the Shabbat day. Drawing water that hadn't been prepared on the 6th day is said again. Taking any burden to carry out or in of the house, so taking on any burden to carry out inside or outside of the house, meaning don't do anything crazy. So even in the Jewish law today, there aren't really prohibitions against like doing physical work inside of one's house. But here it says, don't take on any burden to carry out inside or outside of his house, which is so real. Like, don't start a whole project on the Shabbat. Don't do some serious burden inside or outside of the house. It's not the day to start that. And in general, no work other than what you've prepared for yourselves on the 6th day. Then it talks about anyone who goes on a journey. So going out on a far journey is not allowed. Plowing a farm at his house or any other place. So any farm work, any work like working the land. Lighting a fire, riding an animal, traveling by ship in the sea. So we see a lot of movement things that take you away from the house, the family, and the community. Then there's the killing things like slaughtering an animal, any animal, bird, fish. Even catching an animal, bird, or fish on Shabbat is not allowed. And then it says fights a war on the Shabbat day. So this isn't talking about a defensive war, but it's saying if a war needs to be fought, don't start it on the Shabbat day. Don't do anything that constitutes work. Who is it talking about? You, your children, your workers, your cattle, and the foreigner within your gates. The only thing that is allowed is giving frankincense, bringing offerings and sacrifices to God's sanctuary. That is allowed on Shabbat. Also in the Bible, in the temples, they did bring sacrifices and burn incense, specifically in God's place to God, is allowed. Other than that, and that is so that they can atone for Israel with sacrifice continually from day to day as a pleasing memorial to God. So that's everything that's not allowed on Shabbat according to Jubilees. Those are the 4 things that Jubilees represents. Let's review. Number 1, it's a sign. Number 2, it's a clock. Number 3, it's a feast. And number 4, it is an anchor. Thank you so much for listening. By observing the Shabbat, Jubilees teaches us that we align ourselves with a divine rhythm of creation. We experience profound blessings that come from honoring the sacred. It's a time to step away from the demands of the world to cultivate a deeper connection to ourselves, our loved ones, our communities, and the divine. And I hope that you learned something. This is the essence of Shabbat. If it's gotten too complicated over all these millennia, then let's get back to basics. And Jubilees is always good for the basics, always good for the truth, the reality, the simplicity of what things come down to, and such a good cross-reference for the Bible. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. See you next time.